Hey everyone, this is Ari Holmes with EmpowerMe with Ari. Today we have a special session. I am just overly excited to have our special guest in the building. You guys, the message that we're going to be talking about today, I know it's going to change lives because it is needed. It's definitely needed. We're going to be talking about today redeeming a generation and following purpose. And, following purpose is not always easy, but it's necessary. As leaders, we go through things silently at times, but we have to stay grounded as we lead. We have to continue to be a light, an example for those who are before us, and how we live our lives. It does matter. We're being watched by those who need us most. And it's really more specifically about the younger generation. They need to see something real, something authentic. They need to be led back to their proper place to live the life that God has chosen for them. So today, our very special guest that we have is Pastor Romell Freeman. Hey, sir, thank you for coming and just giving us your energy and your time. Can you please introduce yourself? What's your story and where are you from?
Hey, well, first, thank you for having me. Definitely a great opportunity, and I love what you're doing, and excited to be able to, just take some time and share my story and my life, and just connect with you and the people.
Yes.
So my story, definitely not from Arizona. That's currently where I live, but not a native to here. I'm from Tennessee, a city called Clarksville, probably like 30 minutes from Nashville. Grew up there, went to college close by, and shortly after graduating college, I went right into ministry. I kind of had this journey of all my life knew that's ultimately what I was going to do.
Wow.
I kind of ran from that. And I'm sure we'll talk about that some more. But, ran from that. And then it wasn't until like my sophomore year of college where I really, accepted that call and decided, you know what, God, I'm just going to see where you'll take me in life. And so, in that process, in that journey, God started to do things, connect me with some people. And I ended up interning at a church in Clarksville, Tennessee. Last year, they were named the fastest growing church in America.
Wow.
And so, just like a guy with no experience, just ins and outs of ministry and how it works, ended up, there. And God just opened up that door, super humbling. And I spent 5 years there and 5 years of ministry there as a student pastor. Through a student ministry from around 15 students to around 250 students and volunteers. Great time, amazing experience, learned a lot. And then shortly after that, that's how I ended up in Arizona. And I'm kind of on a different journey. It looks and feels very different, but still all in God's hands, and definitely exciting as well. And so that's kind of where I'm currently at.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's amazing how God chooses people. He never chooses it all throughout the Bible. He's not choosing people that are overly qualified or think they have it all together. He's choosing those that are like, who, me? But why me? And then he always qualifies those that he calls. And that's the beautiful thing, is like when we trust God, when we like, okay, I don't know how this all is going to end. I know that you said that you have a plan for my life. You're gonna to prosper me, not to harm me. So I'm gonna, put it all in your hands and just trust you through the process. So that's so dope. And that sounds like what you're doing right now. And I am just, I'm encouraged by your yes. I am, because a lot of younger generations or millennials or younger, sometimes it's kind of a struggle saying yes, to the call, because we have so many other things that try to get our attention, the distractions and this and that. And, and sometimes we have all this clutter, and the last voice that we can hear is God. So I commend you for saying yes and for fulfilling the call. Definitely. So question, are there other ministers in your family?
Yeah, so I think my family, the family that God blessed me with, is a huge reason why I am where I am today and who I am.
Okay.
My mother, she is a very strong woman of God. Growing up, always, kept faith in front of us and really just planted those seeds from early on. She leads mission trips all over Central America.
Wow.
And so always heavily involved in missions and in the church. Growing up, I remember, we would say, she would make us say no to a lot of things and never let it interfere with church. So the value that I have in the local church is a result of my mom. And wow. My mom definitely very ministry driven. My aunt as well. She is a pastor in Alaska.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so my family definitely has a lot of just a background in ministry. And so whether it's hands-on ministry or even another one of my aunts, she God has really blessed her financially, and so she's been a part of funding church plants and missions, things like that. So yeah, it's crazy. I was really blessed and feel like like I said, the family that I have, they absolutely the prayers, the seeds that they planted definitely play a huge part in who I am and all the things that I've been able to be a part of.
Right. That's absolutely amazing. There's nothing like praying mother, praying aunt, praying father. It's nothing like that. And I definitely, growing up, being a pastor's daughter, my grandparents were pastors. So, I definitely ran from it. I'm not gonna lie. But growing up, having to go to church all throughout the week, it was just like, I don't want to do it. But looking back, I'm like, I thank God for that foundation. So I hear what you're saying, because it's like, it saved me from things that I didn't even know that I would go through, because that foundation was in me and I remember certain things so I can come back to my first love. So thanks for sharing that. That's so dope. So I know you mentioned about the, coming out of school and connecting with the ministry right away. Yeah. Was it ever hard for you to say like, okay, am I really going to do this? Was there anything else that you wanted to do, sports or any type of other fields that kind of got your attention? Or was it pretty easy? You were like, okay, like I'm good. I'm just going to flow.
Right. So I guess I can back up a little bit. So I was an athlete in high school. I played football and that was my passion. That's what I loved. And I felt like, I felt like God was going to use that for something. And so the school that I went to was called Lindsey Wilson College in Columbia, Kentucky. I got a football scholarship there. Wow. So I played 4 years there, and literally from my freshman year to my senior year was this process and this journey of God removing that as the priority in my life, and then putting this this call to ministry in my face. What ended up happening was my freshman year, I got connected with a couple of guys that worked for a ministry called Campus Crusade for Christ. Okay. And they wanted to start a ministry on our campus called Athletes in Action. So they would drive from Lexington, it was about an hour for where my school was. They would literally drive an hour every week, meet with me and a couple of other guys, mentor us, develop us, and we started this ministry on campus, and it started to grow. People were getting saved, people were getting involved, and right around that time is when I kind of realized, like, hey, I feel like this is what I'm called to do. When you get a taste of seeing people, like my roommate, for an example, gave his life to Christ, and when you get a taste of that, it kind of almost becomes this thing where you're like, that's all I want. Like, I just want to be a part of more of that. And so, I feel like God used football in a different way than I thought. And just kind of like transitioned it into ministry. And so, so for me, by that point, it was pretty easy.
Okay.
God had already kind of, initially it was hard because, I think anytime you have your plans, your desires, what you envision, and God is like, nah, it's going to look different. It's a struggle, like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But then it's also at the same time, like, the goodness of God is when he calls you to something, he's going to do whatever it takes to where your heart then matches the call.
That's so good.
So once that happened, it was easy for me. I'm like, okay, ministry, whatever. I'll work for a church. I'll be a missionary, whatever you want. And so I think, once he gets a hold of the heart and aligns it with the call, it's easy to be like, okay, well, whatever this looks like, I'm willing to, be a part of it.
Oh my goodness, that is absolutely amazing. What is one piece of advice for somebody that may be struggling to give God that yes? What would you say to them?
I think first, let me go ahead and say everything is always easier said than done. Even with myself, as I share my story, as I share, the things that I've been through, it always comes off, to the listeners as easy, but I just feel like that's never the case. So if you're listening and you're struggling, saying yes to the call that God has put on your life, I think ultimately, I think your personal relationship with him, the closer you get to God, the more you can see that his heart for you, his plans for you are way better than anything that you could imagine. And so that's the best advice that I could have, with any relationship. If you don't know someone and they tell you, hey, I need you to go here, you're gonna be skeptical. You're gonna be like, wait, what? But if it's somebody that you know, somebody that you love, yes, hey, I need you to go here and do X, Y, and Z, you're like, this person loves me, this person cares about me, and so therefore I'm willing to trust them and walk wherever they lead me.
Come on. Oh my goodness, that is so good. That is so good. It really is. It really is a relationship thing. It's a hard thing.
Absolutely.
And, oh my goodness. And the more you allow God to reveal himself to you, the easier it becomes, because you realize, okay, he's not trying to send me down a crazy path, like, or trick me. And it's not like he's trying to get things from us, but he's trying to get things to us, ultimately, the best. Oh my goodness.
Even if the path does look crazy, I mean, look at Joseph.
Oh
look
my
at his
goodness.
path.
Right.
That man had it rough.
Yes, he did.
But that relationship with God, that intimacy with God, it didn't matter what season he was in. It didn't matter how crazy the path was. He knew, okay, so I know the promise, I know the dream, I know the vision that God gave me. And so somehow, I don't know in what way, but I know it's going to come to pass because I believe that the God that I serve is good. And so even if the path is crazy, even if things don't make sense, that trust will eventually make sense.
That is amazing. I'm glad that you brought that up, because the path is not always peaches and cream. It's not. It's really not. And it is a trust factor. And in order to trust somebody, you have to know them. You don't trust somebody you don't know. So that's good. That's a message right there.
That's a message.
It is a message. Oh my goodness. If you do that, go ahead and send me a copy. So, okay, I wanted to say, to kind of transition and talking about staying focused on the call. How do you stay focused on the call? What are some practical things that you do to ensure that you don't get distracted?
Yeah. I mean, look at society, look at the world we live in. Distractions are everywhere. And I think, that's one of the greatest tools that the enemy uses, is to keep us distracted, put things in our paths that take our time, take our energy, but really doesn't have any substance or value towards eternity. And so for me, I think I'm the type of person, like, when I do something, I get sucked in it. You know, I want to give it my all. I want to just like be the best at it. And so that's something that I have really struggled with in my life, is staying focused on the things that actually matter and not just like being busy for the sake of trying to be great at something that really doesn't have, you know, eternal value. And so I think just a few things. One, I think having the right people around you.
That's good.
You know, that strong foundation for me is family. For me, I have great friends, you know, that I've had for a long time that kind of know what I'm called to. They know, you know, the path that God has set before me. And, you know, they're a huge part of, you know, just keeping me in check, keeping me focused on the right things. And so definitely having, you know, that foundation of people that can, you know, whenever you may think this is the way, they can say, well, you know, that doesn't really fit with what I know God has put on your life. And so definitely that solid foundation of family and friends that can kind of keep you focused. My mom is the number one person that you know, is that voice in my life. I could think of back to college, you know, when I was like, hey, I want to make money, I want to, you know, do this, run a successful business, and my mom's like, no, God has called you to do this with your life, and would always remind me of that. And so that's helped my focus. And then two, I think just being able to say no to things.
That's good.
Like it's simple, it's hard, but I think being able to say no, because every opportunity is not a God opportunity.
That's good.
Every opportunity that comes your way is not necessarily something that will benefit you. And so I think, you know, being able to say no, being able to be disciplined enough to, you know, let those words come out of your mouth, I think is so key to being focused. Because if you're like me, someone who, you know, in a sense has this desire to meet people's needs and please people, I can really overextend myself trying to meet everyone's needs. Really, I think sometimes it's best to just do a few things really well. A lot of things that are not, you know, excellent or well. And so definitely be disciplined enough to say no. And then also just pray, discernment, you know, wisdom, discernment. Again, having the Holy Spirit, which is an amazing gift that we have, that can really help us stay focused, because it can give you that nudge of like, yeah, no, you don't need that in your life right now. This is not that season. This is what I need you focused on. And so, yeah, I think those three things are huge.
Yes, absolutely. You could write a book on that. It's so solid.
Look, we're going to get a bunch of content from this podcast. We got a sermon, a book coming so far.
I want to see this. I want to see this come to pass. Oh my goodness, that is funny. So kind of what you just mentioned last, let's just go a bit deeper. Do you ever, or when you do get tired as a leader, what do you do to keep yourself from giving up when you feel like, oh, I'm drained? You know, like, what do you do?
Yeah. Getting tired, getting frustrated, feeling weighed down by life is inevitable. I feel like the higher God calls you, the more of that is gonna be present in your life, the opportunities to feel that way. And so I think, you know, making sure you're healthy, making sure your plate isn't overloaded with things that don't, because here's what I've learned. You know, when I was a youth pastor, I found myself working nonstop. Like everything was ministry. And I tell people all the time, ministry is not necessarily a job, it's a lifestyle. And, you know, in the amount of time that I was doing that, I look at all that I accomplished, and all the things that God did, and it's like, man, like that is a lot of stuff. And honestly, there were times and moments where I was tired, but it didn't necessarily kill me. You know, I think being tired is good. You know, it lets you stay humble. It lets you realize, like I'm not a superhuman. I need a greater source than myself, because the energy that I put out has to be put back in through something other than myself.
Come on.
And so I think, when it comes to the things that we choose to do, like it has to be something that we're called to do. If you're called to it, you will put in so much work, you will put in so much energy, and it may not even feel like, you actually did as much as you did, because that passion, that love for it, will constantly fuel you.
Right.
That's something that God does is, when he calls people to things, he gives them almost like through his spirit, this like extra, I call it like overtime. Factor, in your life. And so, if you're doing something you love, if you're doing something you're called to do, you'll find that you're able to persevere, being tired, and push through those moments and just keep going. But definitely, I think something else to keep in mind too is rest. There are times, especially specifically right now, where I'm kind of transitioning. Rest is a huge key. So absolutely grind, absolutely go hard. Like God gives you the energy to do so, but he also, he rested, so we need to.
Right.
And that's something we as humans, we struggle with that. It's so funny.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so good.
We think if we're not doing something, busy, we're not being productive.
Oh my goodness.
When in creation, that was the final step of production.
Yes.
So
that's perfect. Oh my goodness. Rest is part of the process. That is so dope.
It's a part of the process.
It's part of the process, and then understanding like that at the end of the day, what you're doing is bigger than you. It's literally bigger than you, and it's going to eventually help somebody else. Like we are the answer to another person's prayer, because God worked through people.
And that statement right there, even in my most difficult moments, that statement right there is what has never allowed me to give up. Never allowed me to quit, because I know, I think of my mom and the impact that she has had on me in my life. And I think, what if she gave up?
Right.
You would have never had the impact on me that she has had. And so for me, I know that's how God operates. He blesses us, he uses us, he takes our brokenness and turns it into something amazing, so that other people can benefit from it. And so if I quit, if I give up, I'm stripping somebody else of the blessing that God wanted to do through
goodness. Me. I'm about to throw something. I'm literally about to throw something. What in the world? If I give up, I am stripping somebody else from the blessing that they're supposed to have. That is so good. That is so powerful. I'm telling you, I'm going to listen to this over and over again, because this is so good. And I know that the people that are going to tune in to this, that their lives are going to be changed, because this is like manna. This is what we need to hear now is relevant. It's helping us to keep moving forward with the purpose, with the call that God has given us, regardless of how we feel. And there was one other thing, and then I'm going to keep moving forward. But I love how you used the word. You said, the phrase you said, well, we have the opportunity to. Oh my goodness. And we were talking about being drained or feeling drained. You have the opportunity to, but you don't have to take that, or you know what I mean, or fall into that, or fall victim to that opportunity. That is so dope. Oh my goodness.
It's an opportunity. It's a choice.
It's a choice.
Again, we're humans. So we're gonna feel those things.
Right.
And so when you feel those things, it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's not always necessarily that you're doing too much. It's just natural. It's how it is. But you do not have to be overtaken by it. You do not have to, I think it was Stephen Furtick. He preached a message that really impacted me. And I may be messing this up, but it was something along the lines of I'm overwhelmed, but I'm not outnumbered. He used the story in the Bible where I think it was the Israelites, where they were at war, they were outnumbered, and they ended up winning. And he talked about how although they were overwhelmed and felt like, man, are we really capable of beating, this army? There's less of us, but when you have like that God factor, you're never outnumbered. And so I think like when it comes to being tired, like, yes, you're gonna feel those things. Yes, you may be overwhelmed, but that doesn't have to. You don't have to be overcome by that, because you have the God factor that can allow you to persevere through that.
Yes.
I think as I look at the Bible and I look at people in the Bible, they were able to do things that most people couldn't do and wouldn't do because they had God on their side. So in the same way, when this person is doing the same amount of work as you, putting forth the same amount of energy, they're beat up and exhausted and just literally burn out. You don't have to be that way, because you have something that's supernatural, something that's greater than the natural, that will help you and assist you and keep you moving forward.
Yes, that is so good. I remember my father, my dad mentioning, he always talks, use very simple phrases and stuff, but just as a reminder, me plus God is always the majority. Always. Yes. Always the majority, no matter how you look at it. You're going to always win with that equation. So, oh my goodness, if we could be on this all day, we're going to move forward, but this is really, really, really good. So how do you feel about the younger generation today? Just in general, do you believe that younger generation are on track, or a lot are just kind of lost?
Yeah. So this question for me, I feel like with being a student pastor for so long, my life, 5 years of my life was pouring into this next generation. I have a little sister that's 11 years younger than me, and so she is a part of this generation, that we're talking about right now. As you ask that question, for me, I think I always try to be really careful, because I know every generation has the opportunity to look at the one coming and say all the things that's wrong with it. Look at it's a proven thing through time. That's always the case. But for me, as I look at the next generation, I'm very encouraged. I feel like it is very special, because I've learned over the years that this generation has a lot of heart, and I think this generation is going to be the generation that does not fit the status quo of what we think ministry has to look like, what we think church has to look like, or a speaker, or even just a
Christian. So good.
Because I've noticed this generation, they have a way of defying the odds, if you will, or just like stepping out from the norm. Of course, that could be a bad thing, but at the same time too, it could be a beautiful thing.
Lesson,
Because like we talked about in the beginning, God calls people who don't fit the image a lot of times. The greatest example, Jesus Christ. He did not fit.
They couldn't even recognize him.
It was crazy. He was so outside of the box that they didn't recognize him as the Messiah. And so that's one of the biggest things that I'm like, okay, this generation can do something because they're willing to step outside of the box. They're kind of done with looking, everything needing to be perfect, and it's so funny because culturally, with Instagram and things like that, like that's kind of what's expected. But I've got a glimpse of the next generation kind of saying, okay, we want something different. We're gonna just go down a different path. Which is cool.
Oh my goodness, when you break down even just using Jesus Christ as an example how practical that is and relevant that is today. Oh my goodness. And it's just because, and I'm not definitely not talking bad in regards to churches and stuff today. I mean, we are the church, but a lot of times ministries get caught up in the religiosity, and they push out those who really need God. They push out the next leaders just because they look a certain way, or you know what I mean. And so I think that is, oh gosh, that's so powerful that you just mentioned that, and how you have that comparison, because that's exactly how God wants us to view. He wants us to literally view people through the eyes of Christ, you know, like use the examples and stories from the Bible and say, this is not off. You know what I mean? They're not far off. Like they can recognize Jesus and look, he saved us, redeemed us, all this stuff. So we have to be willing to encourage those that don't fit the norm. It's not cookie cutter. That's so good. That is so good. And so how do you think that we can be, you know, just better examples for the younger generation? And what's one message, it could be a phrase or whatever, that you believe that youth needs to hear today? You kind of was really good what you just said, but if you want to add anything else to that, we can go ahead.
I think as far as an example goes, I think my biggest thing, my message always when it comes to ministry, when it comes to church, or even just Christians in our day-to-day and how we operate, would be inclusion instead of exclusion. And so for this next generation, I think they need to see us as people that include, people that it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what your background is, where you come from, it doesn't matter what your sin is. I'm willing to include you and welcome you into this thing that can change your life in a way that it changed mine. And so I think if the next generation can see that, then they're gonna do it in a far greater way than we can. Because like I said, I feel like they're hungry. They're willing. They want to step out of the box. So I think if we can model that and start planting that in them, they'll take it to a whole nother level and take it further, you know, than we ever did or we ever will. And I think, you know, that's something that should be at the forefront of all of our minds.
Oh my goodness.
We need to populate heaven, and make this world a better place through Christ. And that doesn't happen by, you know, huddling up and, you know, making it the Christian circle and everybody else is there. It doesn't work that way.
Hey, we are lights called to where? We are supposed to be shining lights that shine in a dark place. A light does not need another light. Like if it's already lit up, of course we come together, encourage each other, you know, exhort each other, but literally like Jesus hung around those that needed him. I think a lot of times we kind of forget that. He hung around those that nobody really wanted to be around, but those are who made a difference, who the lineage of Jesus. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, oh my goodness. This is so good.
That text, you know, the other part of that is where it talks about us being salt, right? And I think of like what salt does to the human body. It makes it thirsty, right? And so as Christians who are called to be salt, essentially we're just called to make people thirsty. And Jesus is the living water.
Come on.
So, you know, put those two together. When you're around me and and I'm trying to include you into this family, it should make you thirsty for that living water, for Christ. And I think that's the call of Christians, is to be that light that shines. It's to be the salt that makes people thirsty and points them to that thing that can actually quench their thirst. And I think once we realize that is our ultimate purpose, no matter if we're a pastor, no matter if we're a teacher, a plumber, you name it, like that's when things start to change and lives really start to get impacted.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. I've never heard that analogy, never heard that comparison, but it is the truth. It is the truth. Salt makes the body thirsty. You need water.
Yeah, he's the living water.
Come on. Oh my goodness. I'm getting so much from this. We're going to definitely have to do another podcast, but we're going to keep going with what we have here. Let's talk about, with the time that we have left, we're going to transition into self-talk. What is one thing that most people don't know about Romell? What's one thing?
One thing I would say people probably don't know about me. Man, that's tough. I would say I have a passion. I have a passion for just the simple things. Like that's what really gets me going. Just the simple things of life. Like I'm definitely not somebody that tries to complicate things, or really even just the things that I find myself attracted to is like just simple, minimal. And so for me, like, yeah, people may not know that because just how I present myself or whatever, but I actually really value just the simple things of life.
Yes. Okay. That's dope. Thanks for sharing that. So, and the reason I put this in here is because, I asked, are you an introvert or extrovert? And the reason I put that in there is because a lot of times I've realized that we see people talking and on stage and stuff like that. A lot of people are so quiet behind closed doors, and you're like, but how do you do this? And I know it's with God, but it's just
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah. So for me, I would say I'm definitely both. Okay. But I'll say that and then I'll explain. So I can get on stage. I can be the guy in the room. That is exuberant or having fun. But I'm also an introvert. So for me, I think how I recharge is definitely by myself.
Okay.
I got to get alone. I got to get my music and kind of just set the mood, and that's how I recharge. But I also feel like, a part of my personality does like just being extroverted and being around people. But so I can definitely play both, but I would say how I recharge is by myself, alone. Just quality time to myself, and yeah, so that's me.
Oh my goodness, that's so good. And it's actually I mean, and I'm not trying to be extra, but it's a reflection of what Christ did. If we noticed, he always left the disciples and he would go pray. You know what I mean? Like often he's like, I'm going to pray, I'm going to do this, because he understood, he wanted us to see the importance of that quality time, spending time recharging, getting the reload, because at the end of the day, it's God working through us. We're the vessel and he's the power. And we have to spend that quality time, that intimate time with him in order to pour out and be an extrovert, or be able to be around people and give them what God wants us to have. So that's good. Good question. So what do you currently have going on? I mean, I see you do several things. Your photography is beyond dope. It's oh my goodness. It's just, I don't even know the word to put to it. It's so unique. Wow. It really is. It's so unique. Every single picture that I've looked at, it has something different. And so you do a lot. So what do you have going on? Do you have any products that that you currently have that people can reach out and to get these things? Tell me what's going on.
Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, for the compliment.
Welcome.
It's so interesting because I think, a lot of times God will kind of bring things out of us that we didn't even know existed.
Yes.
And so for me, it's a lot of the same things. Like I surprise myself sometimes, when it comes to like the creative things. And for me, that is just an outlet, where during my most difficult moments, I feel like that's been the thing that was kind of therapeutic for me. And so over the past couple of years, God has really like brought that out of me, just the creative stuff. And so I do that. And in fact, I mentioned the transition. So I took time away from ministry, from like a pastoral role, and I've now gone back into it just here recently. And so I'm actually the creative director now at Impact.
Oh my goodness, come on.
Like I said, it looks a lot different. I think my gift and calling is still there. It's just in this season, God is kind of like doing something, and I'm just going with it. I'm just where it leads and what that looks like, and I'm really excited to be a part of what God is doing there. It's amazing things. And so as far as products or anything, right now at the moment I don't. I have a lot of things that's is in the chamber that just hasn't come out yet, but it will. But the biggest thing for me right now is I'm getting my master's degree. I'm in seminary.
Congrats.
Thank you. A lot of time goes to that. A lot of time goes to the creative stuff, and then also I've opened myself up for speaking engagements. So that's something. I just spent 5 days in Kentucky.
Wow.
Preached like 6 different services. During my time there, but it was amazing. Huge blessing. So those 3 things right now is kind of what's on my plate. So the creative stuff, speaking, and then seminary.
Oh goodness, yeah, that's dope. That's absolutely dope. I mean, it's true. If we're faithful over a few, God will make us rulers over much. The talents that He's given us, and so definitely in your testament of being faithful, of a faithful servant, and then God saying, okay, I'm going to open up this door, creative director role for you. I'm going to open up this door. So congrats to you. That is absolutely wonderful. I'm excited to see what else you produce, like I really am. So how can people connect with you if they want to get you for speaking engagements and stuff? Instagram or email or, okay.
Yep, definitely. I am on social media. It's just my first and last name at Romell Freeman for Instagram, for Twitter, and then my email is going to be romellfreeman2@gmail.com. And I'm currently working on my website, so that will be up hopefully soon, and that'll be another platform for people to reach me on, and that's just going to be romellfreeman.com.
Okay. Thank you. So appreciate your time. Oh my goodness, this was amazing. It really was. It was power packed and simple, but what was needed, definitely what was needed for this time. So I really appreciate you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share at this point? Anything you feel godly? Okay.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I was blessed. By being here and even the things you said. So thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. You are so welcome. Like I said, we're going to have some type of continuation, another podcast, because you got the other sermons to do, the book to do.
The plate is loaded now.
The plate is, to capacity. Listen here, God has to expand. Oh my goodness, this is so funny. Thanks again. And you guys, yes, I know you guys are going to be blessed by this podcast. Also, go ahead and grab the 2 books that I have. You guys can go on to Amazon. I have my book, The Loud Secret, talks about my testimony, overcoming trauma and living the life that God has created me to have. And then my latest project, Singles, Let's Deliberate. It is on Amazon. You guys go ahead, grab that copy. It talks about preparing, making sure that you are the best version of yourself before you think you're getting into anything with anybody else. You want to make sure that we've gone through the healing process that we're supposed to have, gotten the mentorship, whatever it is that we need, so that we can be a better suitor for somebody. Okay, you guys, or a better person for another person. So you guys, I'm so glad that you tuned in. Thanks again. And like I always like to say, remember to renew your mind. It is the GOAT mind. Love you guys.